Yes.
Okay, hey, this is Brian Benstock, and this is the Brian Benstock Show, and today I am delighted to have my friend and colleague David Zwick of RedCap with us here to talk about the future being frictionless and David's role in that frictionless future. David, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing great today. How are you, Brian?
I am great. I'm really excited about what's going on. The NADA convention, that's our Super Bowl, that's coming up this week, and I think we've got some exciting news. Dave, let's talk about what RedCap does. What service does RedCap provide for people, for customers?
Sure. RedCap has created a category of what we call out-of-store experience. It's really designed to give customers a choice of how they do business with your store. We believe that the predominant way that customers choose to do business will be without coming to a dealer, and we want to provide a platform that allows a dealer to do that at scale.
Well, that's great. If I'm a customer, what's in it for me?
The what's in it for you is you're able to get your car serviced without ever visiting a dealership. You're able to test drive a car without ever visiting a dealership, drive it on your own roads at your convenience. And essentially, you're going to get the best service experience, which to us is not experiencing the service at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. How would you say that RedCap has leveraged technology to benefit consumers today?
Well, we've developed and have leveraged the same type of software and capabilities that most consumers are already using. They're used to purchasing things on Amazon, summoning a car with Uber, having their dry cleaning sent out, never visiting places. Almost everything that they do comes to them, and oftentimes they're doing it through a mobile device. We've simply just applied that technology to the automotive industry, which is tend to lag behind other consumer products. And now, using that same technology, you can now have those services delivered to you at your home.
So let's talk about that Uber experience, because that's what was really interesting to me. What and how does RedCap provide an Uber-like experience for customers?
So Uber to me, along with Amazon and some others, signify frictionless, seamless experiences. When you compare Uber to what used to be a taxi, and if you take New York City out of it, and virtually every other part of the country, you have to call the taxi. You call the taxi, and seemingly they're the only business in the country that doesn't have caller ID because they ask you your phone number. Then they ask you where you live. They ask it's a house or apartment. They go down all of this entire path, and then they tell you next available cab. They never tell you when it's coming. Right. I compare that to Uber. I open up my phone. I press a few buttons. I don't have to talk to anybody. I see exactly where the car is. I pick the kind of car I want, and it shows up. And then once I'm in the car, I don't have to talk to the person. They know where I'm going because I've already put it in the destination. I don't have to sign anything. I'm paying, but I don't have to touch anything, and it's done.
Well, that's brilliant. And what you're talking about is shared control of the process. It sounds like, because they get to pick their time. In the Uber example, they get to pick the ride. They get to pick the driver. And RedCap appeals to us and to me because we're able to do very similar things with RedCap. When we schedule a service pickup, the customers are able to watch the driver coming to them. So it makes more efficient use of the driver's time and the customer's time. You know, we've all had that experience when you're waiting for something to be delivered and they tell you it's going to be there between 9 and 1 in the afternoon. Right. And it's never there between 9 and 1. And you're waiting like a Schmendrick for 4 hours for whatever it is to be delivered. So this is good for the driver and it's good for the customer because the customer doesn't have to wait around. The other thing, they get to see the driver, right?
Well, I'm sorry?
They get to see the driver.
They can see the driver on the map. They can actually see a picture of the driver so they know who's showing up. They have an identification. But to compare it to a traditional service experience where you may wait an hour, 2, 3, or more, you're turning your entire service experience into really a 5-minute key exchange. And for those lucky enough to live in Manhattan, where their car is in a garage, they don't even have to be there.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
When we came to you, I guess it was about 7 or 8 months ago, we were looking for a solution, and we were considering getting 4 or 5 garages and storing cars in garages, then picking them up by a truck to service them. And then when we spoke with you, it dawned on us, why not have unlimited locations to pick up customers' cars? You know, I mean, we can pick up a car wherever the customer is, whether that's their office or their home, at whatever time they're there. And that became a real benefit to us. In fact, we're using your service now to pick up the customers' cars at the end of the night when they're not using them. to bring the cars to the dealership, service them overnight, and return the cars back to the customers in the morning, making great use of the customer's time. I mean, the car's sitting in a garage. Why not use that time to get the service done?
Yeah, absolutely. You're taking a single point dealership that's in Queens, that's challenging to get to, and by offering pickup and delivery, you're essentially putting your dealership at every single customer's doorstep.
Anywhere they can access us by the phone at any time. And what's really cool is the vision that we have is taking all the friction out of this completely, being able to do this using voice technology. Do you see a point in time where voice technology will be able to be used to summon a car?
100%. Hopefully it's here sooner rather than later, but adoption for online scheduling is very low. It's a very complicated process. People bail out. And my experience as a consumer is calling a dealership, being put on hold, spelling my name 3 times, kind of negotiating whether a loaner is available to me or not. All that is very frustrating. If I can just speak to a device, that would be awesome. And then I could do it 24 hours a day.
Well, I promise you this, we're working on that. We're working on that with your company, hopefully to solve for that pain point for customers. We understand calling a dealership is frustrating. And what's worse is going to the dealership. I mean, typical dealership, they've got bad coffee. They've got stale donuts or bagels. They've got whatever's on their television you don't want to watch. I don't want to watch. You've got customers waiting for hours on end for work to be done. And, at Paragon, I think we have good coffee. I think our donuts and bagels are fresh. And hopefully we have a good choice of what's on television. That doesn't solve the underlying problem. People don't want to be here if they don't have to. And they don't have to be here in 95% of the cases.
Yeah, and no matter how well you do, you can't prevent what happened before the customer ever walked into your dealership. They may be running late.
That's right.
They may be upset about something. They may be sitting next to a lady who's complaining endlessly about this is the 4th time her car's coming in. Not at Paragon, but other dealerships.
Sure.
And it happens. The best thing to do is to keep them out of the store. People want easy. If you make it easy, think about Amazon. It's so easy to buy stuff that you just buy stuff.
Yeah. And let's go to that example. I took a class at NYU and we were asked to design a shopping cart. We designed a shopping cart and we were broken down into groups of 5 to redesign the shopping cart for a supermarket. And I drew 2 boxes, a box with an arrow pointing to one box and a box pointing the other way. And the professor said, "What the heck is this?" I said, "It's a redesign of the shopping cart." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, why not just order the food online and have it brought to your house rather than going to the supermarket?" He said, "That wasn't the assignment." I said, "But that is the answer." And a couple of days later, Amazon bought Whole Foods for $20 billion. And I sent him an email. Well, again, the idea was worth $20 billion. Let's examine the shopping cart. If you're at a supermarket, you get out of your car, you get a shopping cart, you go into the supermarket, and you go through the line and you load up the shopping cart. Then when you get to the end of the line, you go to check out, you unload the shopping cart. Then you pay for the goods and the services, and you reload the shopping cart. Then you take the shopping cart out to your car, unload the car, put it into your car, and drive home. Then you unload the car back into your house. It's crazy. Perhaps the best redesign of the shopping cart is the elimination of the shopping cart. And I think perhaps the best redesign of the service friction points is the elimination of the current service process. Are you doing this with manufacturers or just dealers?
We're primarily focused on manufacturers. Lincoln has a national program. All of their cars, 2016 and newer, come with guaranteed pickup and delivery with a loaner during the 4 years and 50,000-mile warranty. Genesis is launching their brand with the same promise. It comes with the vehicle. And ultimately, we believe that the least expensive way to retain a customer and keep them away from the independents that have the perceived value of convenience is to never let your customer drive by the store, the independent store, when they're thinking they need an oil change, tires, or brakes.
Yeah, that's interesting you mentioned it. The independents have taken a lot of business away from dealers, and by and large, their service amenities are not anywhere near as good as the dealers. Their mechanics are not as well trained on our specific vehicles as our mechanics, and believe it or not, they're not less expensive than our mechanics. Why do you think the independents are taking so much business from dealers?
Because people value their time more than money. When I go to Jiffy Lube, which I admit I do because it's close to my house, I'm paying $80 for a lube oil filter with synthetic oil in it.
Right.
And it takes me 45 minutes, an hour out of my time. I'm making that choice instead of paying $29 or $39 by going to the dealer with a coupon where it's going to take me 3 hours.
Yeah, when we signed on with RedCap and we decided to incorporate this in what we're doing, we started looking at what should we do, and should we charge a subscription or a monthly price to use your service, to be a member of this Paragon. And then I put my Google hat on, or I put my Amazon hat or my Apple hat on, and I said, what would Apple do? And what would Google do? And they wouldn't charge for the pickup and delivery. They would be more concerned about the retention. And so far, that's exactly what's happened. The customer reviews from your service with our dealership have been fantastic. I don't know if you remember the data, but it was some 98% said this will definitely influence the way they do business in the future. And I think anytime you can have customer satisfaction at those levels, raving fans, I think we're really on to something.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing not to like about it. People tend to be a little bit more tolerant of potential mistakes when they didn't invest their time,
Sure.
versus the opposite. When they've invested so much time and things don't get right, they tend to be very angry and aggressive and are very quick to post. Yeah, just one final thought on this. You know, there's a predominant way of thinking that is growing, in our opinion, based on who the car buyers and car leasers are. And for brands that have high lease penetration rates, to millennials, they don't believe this is their car.
That's
they
right.
don't own this car.
That's right.
They believe they could drive this car for 3 years, never change the oil, turn it back in, and it's not going to affect them one bit. It affects the dealer, it affects the OEM with reduced residual values.
Yeah.
But you have to make it easy. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
The millennials won't tolerate doing it any other way. They don't understand everything they do. They're buried in their phone and they're working with the phone. They want everything to come right to their fingertips, right to their wherever the phone is. And I think instead of trying to teach them, no, this is how it has to be done, I think we can learn from them. And we're in a service world. Time is the new currency right now. And we've got to make better use of the customer's time. No customer, regardless of the brand, wants to sit in the dealership's service department. I don't want to sit in my service department. And we've got Apple computers and we've got big screen TVs and we've got coffee and soda and everything else. The bottom line is I want my car serviced and I don't want to have to go to your dealership. And the second customers have an alternative, I think they'll take that alternative. We're finding that customers are using your RedCap service or our RedCap service now. And I think they'll never go back to any other way of doing business. And in fact, if a dealership doesn't offer that service, I think they're going to have a hard time competing with us in the future.
Right. I agree. My last thought on this is that every consumer now is a customer experience expert. They've all tasted how good it can be, and therefore they get upset when it's not perfect. I mean, think about the number of people that are flying in airplanes using Wi-Fi that all of a sudden get so upset when the Wi-Fi slows down or doesn't work out.
Yeah,
it's a ridiculous expectation, but that's the world we're living in.
Yeah, they're 30,000 feet in the air, traveling 600 miles an hour, and if the Wi-Fi is interrupted for 2 seconds, there's bedlam on the plane.
Exactly.
It's an incredible experience. It's an incredible time to be an automobile dealer, and I think you're at the forefront of changing it. You and your partner, Steve, are really doing some spectacular things. What do you think about the OEM engagement? Shouldn't the OEM be a part of this?
To me, this has to start with the OEM. With technology the way it is, very few dealers have the size of the business or the technical know-how to pull this off on their own. For those that don't, they're either not going to do it or they're going to do it poorly. It's the brands that can integrate this with the tier 1 properties, tier 2, in-car, connected car, ownership app, all the way through. This needs to be a seamless, frictionless experience, and it cannot be Frankenstein together. No. And that's what will happen if the OEM leaves the dealer to figure it out, because it's complicated.
And that's basically what happened to us during the past years, that we really had to merge several technologies, your company being one of them, but only a part of it. If you pick up the car, now you have to figure out how does a customer pay for it in the home, and how do you do that and protect their credit card information, and how do you also get the customer to authorize the service. And thankfully, we've been able to put together some really great technology smooth out the irregularities between the different companies. Your company's been great working with our other associates, and I think we've got a really great product. But the reality is, until the OEM or manufacturer or Honda get behind this, it's going to be an inconsistent experience for customers depending on what dealership they go to. Apple gives you an Apple experience regardless of how you integrate with Apple. Google gives you a Google experience regardless of where you access Google. I think the OEMs need to start looking at it from the same perspective. We need to demand this as automobile dealers and as business people, that they help us provide that kind of experience for our customers, because the customers are demanding it. You know, the customers now are moving, they have alternatives that they never had before. You've got Tesla entering into the market, you've got fractional ownership, you've got Uber. I mean, in New York City, it's less expensive for people to drive an Uber than it is to own a car. And a lot of customers are opting and moving in that direction. Do you see yourself having a role in fractional ownership or subscription-based ownership? What if customers move in that direction?
Yeah, so we think that's a significant part of the future. You know, whoever dreamed up that a lease has to be 3 years or 4 years, that is an old model. People don't think that way anymore. That's an eternity, especially for younger people. They don't stay in their jobs that long. Fractional ownership, I happen to think fractional ownership of used cars, it has a bigger future than fractional ownership of new cars, because it's only new to the first person that touches it. It's used after that. But I believe, just like maintenance, insurance, everything is wrapped up into that ownership. To me, it's key that pickup and delivery. You know, you go to sleep at night after the family weekend, you press a button, they take away the SUV, and they bring you the subcompact, and that's what you drive to work all week. You press the button again, and it's that easy.
You know, again, and that gives you a future that is frictionless, that gives you choice, gives you shared control of the drive, no long-term contracts. I mean, look at what's happened with Airbnb. Airbnb sells the most beds every night, and they don't own a single bed. You look at Uber, the same deal. They're providing transportation, but they don't own a car. And I think as dealers, we have to look at ourselves, instead of selling cars, we have to look at ourselves as providing transportation. And I don't care how the consumers consume that transportation, so long as they're consuming it from us.
Right, and that's where the brand is important. I think the least expensive thing an OEM can do is invest in platform-wide pickup and delivery. The total cost, roughly $200, $300 over the course of 3 years. It's the least expensive form of retention they could ever find. The quality of the vehicles are great.
Right.
And I'm not knocking the dealer. It's what happens after you own the vehicle. It's those pieces in time where you have a problem, where the frustration goes high. If the OEM can deliver a seamless, frictionless ownership experience that includes pickup and delivery, as long as they build great products, which they do, they shouldn't lose a customer.
Yeah, agreed. David Zwick from RedCap, thank you very much for your time. I totally appreciate what you and Steve do for us at the dealership, allowing Paragon to be one of the first dealers to provide pickup and delivery service. We look forward to working with you on voice technology in the future to make it even more frictionless for our customers to do business with us. David, thank you for your time.
Thank you. See you, Nada. Bye-bye.
Take good care. Bye-bye.